All right. We back again on MLK Day uh, with another segment in the Counselor's Corner and hanging out with Herb. We're going to have the open court session 3 in the Counselor's Corner.
All right.
So, with that said, um, we're going to go through this. Let me just read the description, and we're gonna go in. It's a lot on the plate, but that's the thing with the open court session that you know we could have a lot of things on the plate, but just because it's on the plate doesn't necessarily mean that you're gonna get to it. But we're definitely gonna try to talk about these different things. And if you as a caller decide to come in, you might bring something else to the table. And we're willing to discuss that as well because I know people got a lot to say and they're looking for platforms to say it and with adult conversation, just not your typical recycled post that people keep posting and people comment. Try to bring something different here. So, open court session 3 in the Counselor's Corner. The dialogue has been electric the first 2 open court sessions. In fact, last week's show went into triple overtime and lasted for about 2 hours. We actually had someone call in from the UK, so that was big. That means people are watching all over. Let's see. On the plate tonight, we have numerous topics that have popped up in the week, such as should students be allowed to order takeout for lunch in school? The blatant disrespect of young people promoting MLK for party advertisements. Ladies, what do you want in a mate? A, the biological picking, attractive versus stability, her own desires versus the biology. C, needs-based dating. D, the mores and the folkways. And E, non-traditional dating. So come join us tonight. Don't just sit back, type in, call in, get your point off, because it might be an opportunity for you to just say what you got to say. All right, let me see. So the first thing I want to bring up is the fact of the matter of when I mentioned about the well, obviously, let me start off. Happy MLK Day to everyone, and I'm just going to read my quick thing, what I had to say. I posted it earlier about what this day means to me, or just overall when you think about Dr. King. I said, in honor of MLK Day, my thoughts center around keeping Dr. Martin Luther King dream alive. This great man broke down many barriers to get us where we are today. The work is not done by a long shot. So everyone keep living your dream and live your life with a purpose. And make sure you take positive strides every day to walk that walk towards your dream, and good things will happen. Thanks, Dr. King, for giving us a vision and much hope towards the future. Now, with that being said, sometimes I feel like he may be rolling over in his grave right now. I mean, we've made progress, but some years it's kind of like, to me, straddling the fence. Sometimes it seems like things is better, but other times it seems like it's not. And right now, I think times are just don't seem like it's at an all-time high. It's just too much going on, too much disrespect, and for us as blacks, I think the disrespect we have toward our own race, it seems to be getting worse. And I'm gonna chime in a little bit more about that later, but I just wanted to bring that up, and then we're gonna any other things. I'm not gonna talk about them right at this point, but those are some of the things that I mentioned earlier on the table. We're gonna get to that. So, Herb, what's good with you, brother?
Culture, man. Culture. You're always going to hear me talk about culture because it's an overriding factor in a lot of the things that we do, whether it's conscious or subconscious. One of the talking points that they spoke about was our more of the folkways. And I think people underestimate how big that is a determining factor when it comes to dating, whether it's biological, social, financial, or any of the other talking points. So I'm going to jump the order and get right to the cultural aspect of it. Roughly 2 generations ago, between the let's say early 20th century into the mid 20th century, a lot of things were, I won't say they were predetermined, but they had a set course of action that there wasn't much deviation from it. And a lot of that has to do with the lack of options that were available to most people. Most people didn't travel outside of where they lived. So being able to choose the type of mate that you wanted in terms of looks, social caste, and income, those were pretty much regimented, meaning that you didn't have a choice. So if you were born in a small town where there were nothing but farmers and you had aspirations of traveling, you had a couple options. One was to go to school, which was few and far between. America as a demographic wasn't that well educated in that time. And a lot of blue collar jobs required, men to really not even seek education themselves in order to provide for their families, because families then were larger than what they are now. And that was required because we then as a country were an agrarian society. We were transitioning to what we have now. Now we're looking at going into the technological portion of our existence as humans on this planet. First we had the agrarian, then we moved to the industrial revolution. Now we're into what they refer to, I believe, as the third revolution, which is the technological revolution. So a lot of those have changed the way people are able to date. So no longer do the traditional values that once, or the traditional binding that once were a cultural norm, now apply. You see people living together, they're having kids, whether they're married or not, and they're raising these kids in that type of environment. And we see that every day, although it has become the new norm. So, you see somebody that's pregnant and they're not married, you don't bat an eye, whereas 40, 50 years ago, that was a scandal. Saying, well, why are you having kids and you're not married? So, if the young girl got pregnant, there was a couple options. Either the man was forced to marry her or she was shipped out of town. Now, I know a lot of people, given the demographics of the show, a lot of people have heard of the term shotgun marriage. And shotgun marriages were a real thing. And mostly that was to make sure of 2 things. One, that the individual male who got her pregnant was going to be responsible and accountable for maintaining her and the unborn child. The other, and the less spoken and less mentioned thing, was about the female's integrity. Because nobody wanted their daughter to be known as promiscuous. Now, we look at that culture today, you rarely hear the term promiscuous thrown around. You rarely hear the term slut, whore. All those things have become normalized to the point where nobody cares if people are randomly having kids, and the out of wedlock birth rate supports that. So now that you have women's choice, whether it comes to whether or not they want to have it, whether or not she wants to have kids, pardon me, whether or not she wants to date, and when she wants to do all those things. And that's what we come to by when we talk about the needs and her biological urges. Now, during the research for this show, I found this to be interesting. There was no scientific evidence to support women having a biological urge to have children. That was more due to societal pressures and the mores of Folkways that I just previously mentioned. So the list of things that I discovered that prompt women to date were as follows. Does she have a need to date? Meaning, does she need a man for economic support, protection, or to provide for her in other non-feminine ways? A lot of women hate the idea of being by themselves. I won't say alone because I think alone is different, but they want somebody to be there when she wants them. In other words, when it's convenient. So I'm actually going to read something that somebody posted that I found very telling as soon as I could find it. It had to do with, where are we at here? Pardon the delay here. All right. This is from Carol Manzi, and I hope she's listening. She posted, and this is on her Facebook page, she posted a little message for the men 40 years of age and over. This is a little something to think about before you even waste anyone's time and energy. At this stage in life, a woman wants a partner to build up forever with. Not someone running her, not somebody running her in circles, leading her to nowhere. She wants honesty and a full truth, no lies, and having to check all your stories like an undercover agent. She wants stability, not an on-off relationship every time something goes wrong. She wants real love and attention, not pretending to be cool or to show any emotion. She wants a partner that treats her well, not a project where maybe he'll learn how to treat me someday. She wants a mature man that respects her, not somebody that plays childish high school games every time he's mad. She wants mental, emotional support to help her through life's biggest battles, not someone that adds chaos and burdens her life. She wants houses, vacations, IRAs, 401ks, and not what are you doing text or Netflix and chill. She wants a bond so strong with someone that brings more to the table than just sex, a back rub, and some company. We are in the second half of our lives where time is more crucial than money now. She wants a forever commitment to the day I die, not just dating and waiting for the next guy. So if you can't meet her at this level of her relationship expectations and requirements, please don't waste your time trying to prove to her that you can find someone else without any of these standards. She doesn't care. Just move along quietly and she'll gladly find someone else that does. It's as simple as that. Step up or step out. And I found that kind of interesting because there's a lot of things in there that she touches on that a lot of women seem to neglect when they're younger. You know, women seem to prioritize how they feel in terms of dating as opposed to one of the things that she mentioned. And it's like the picture you posted of the heavyset guy who women didn't find physically attractive, or they probably didn't have any type of physical spark. In our parents' generation, there was no such thing as finding somebody physically attractive or somebody having a spark. You just didn't have that opportunity. Like I said, the ability to move about was restricted. You know, you just couldn't hop in your car. I do believe this. Are you able to get through, Ms. Princess?
Well, I'm gonna
He's asking about the number.
I'm gonna say, as far as that, I think, especially when you look in the world of social media, I think the women, they kind of, I don't know, they go with the popular thing that's being said. I mean, you hear all types of things. Like I just made a post a little while ago, uh, back in the days, and I said this before. It was about the light skinned guys and the curly hair. Now these women now say, "Oh, I never was into light skinned guys with curly hair," but many of them are lying. And then it became the dark brothers. They was into that, and then it became on social media to me. Um, it doesn't looks doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. It's about the heart. So I don't know what the hell they're thinking, or what stance do they take from a day-to-day basis. So
Dr. Dunbar from Big Discussion 76.
what's going
Wow.
on, Anwar?
So,
How you
fellas,
doing?
what's going on? Not much. Thought I'd call and sit in a little bit.
All right, that's cool. That's cool. But before we get into that dating stuff, I still, it was some things that was on my mind, just like a long drawn out conversation. Because this dating thing, that's always go be there. This relationship thing. Uh, I still want to talk about. I made a post earlier about one of my earlier this week about one of my students. And usually I get these posts now. We have a little system we call a Schoology where they're able to email teachers, email counselors, their parents are able to check their grades, the students are able to check their grades, they're able to get homework, assignments from there. So, and this just shows you the entitlement or the thought process of these kids today. So usually at this time of the year, I'm getting emails from the kids. Mr. Glover, could you print out my eighth grade first quarter report card? So I was like, all right, fine. I look like, okay, let me see what they want. But this young man, and I like him as a student. He's funny. I like him. He emails me, said, Mr. Glover, can you get me some McDonald's? I have my own money. I want a medium Dr. Pepper, a medium fry, and a sausage and cheese McGriddle, and some honey mustard. And I have $12. So I'm cracking up. I'm laughing like, is he serious? He done lost his mind. So me, I'm not your traditional counselor. I'm gonna come back with a little element of humor. I said his name. I said, stop playing with me. You better eat that school lunch and throw some honey mustard on that chicken patty. So this led to me posting that. Then I'm not gonna call out her name. I should, because I always say I'm gonna call out her name. So she comes on, and I don't know how many school districts does this, but she was like, "Oh, why didn't he just get what's that, Uber Eats or whatever to come?"
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm like, "Are you serious? This shit is not happening in no school like that." And then she's like, "Well, my son and my school district, they allow that." It started off in his middle school, and now he's at a high school with 1900. I gotta believe that she's stretching the truth a little bit about, because I can't even see on a day-to-day basis of kids just ordering food and how chaotic would be. We would literally spend all day trying to sort out those issues of people in and out, they're getting their food, didn't get here by lunchtime, they're talking about they're hungry, they didn't eat. It would just be a mess. So I was just wondering, really, like, is this really true that any school district would allow that? Because I said it would start off small, but then, schools and like everything is a copycat society. That sooner or later, if 10 kids was doing it, then the next week it'll be 30, then it'll be 50. So I just found that hard to believe. What's your take on that, fellas? I just was like appalled that she really said that a school district would allow that.
David, as you were talking, I was thinking that'd be a major security issue,
Oh yeah,
right?
definitely.
Yeah, here, I'm Sandra. I'm on now.
What's going on, Sandra?
Yeah, and here they doing face recognition, so you have to have a face. That the computer has to recognize your face. They're doing the trial at one of the schools here. That they they actually got to know who you are coming in there. So Uber Eats won't make it.
Yeah, so and just the fact, like you said, Anwar, with the school safety thing, that means it'll be constant people coming in and out. And if somebody really wanted to get in that school, they would sit there and kind of monitor it and check it out. Like, oh, at this time, all of these people keep ringing the buzzer. I'm just gonna slide in when they open the door for everyone else, and then go about my mission. So to be honest, her ass has to be lying. She got to be lying. It's no school district would be that stupid.
Well, I can to allow deliveries for lunch for students. I can tell you, right. I can tell you this much.
Well, in high school, she said middle school. Middle school, I can't see it happening, but in high school, I can see them doing that.
No, I don't see it happening at no level because it's just too much chaos. Somebody has to buzz them in. Schools should be locked and secure.
Because that was the issue, not this year, but going back to 2018, 2019 with Niagara Falls High School. They had what they call dean, because of the way the building is situated, and they have all the grades separated in the towers. So they have a dean, and then they have the respective principals in those buildings. But anyway, when she enforced that rule, there was a huge outcry from parents, not the kids, but the parents, because the parents didn't see a problem with it. And to what you're saying, Dave, and Anwar, not only is it a huge security risk, it's disruptive, because if you look at lunch periods are only about 35 minutes.
Yeah, 30 minutes.
So in that time, you have to get from your class to lunch, get your lunch, consume it, and get back to your next class, whether that's a study hall or another one of your core classes. And anybody knows that moving from place to place is time consuming. I know there's new ways of actually looking at trying to streamline classes, and that includes actually, as opposed to moving the students, moving staff, because it's much easier to move one person than it is to move 30 or 40 people. And then when you multiply that by the fact that you have 40 or 50 classes, per 40 minutes, it's rush hour traffic every day for, what's the school year, 280 days?
181.
How much?
It's like 181 days.
Okay. It becomes almost an unmanageable situation. It's as difficult as it is now, because you look at a lot of what our society is, and our society seems to suffer from a decreased willingness to actually focus on a singular task. You got some people that think they can multitask, and what they don't realize is you're diverting your attention. It's the equivalent to trying to tie your shoe and drive a car at the same time. And people are telling you they can do that. This is why we actually texting and driving accidents, because people don't realize that the human mind is not made to do that. Now, there are some things that you can do in conjunction with each other that requires that. But for the overall person, that's just ineffective.
Well, the thing is, with our school, we all know that most of it is that transition period, and they try to alleviate that by having a block schedule, A-Day, B-Day schedule, and they try to have 90-minute classes. But we also know that these kids nowadays can't sit still for 90 minutes. You're going to have to be creative as a teacher. You're going to have constant moving in your classroom, and shit, some days they may have to go outside or something, because for them to listen to a teacher talk, unless it's interactive for 90 minutes, that's going to cause some behavior issues. But a lot of times the transitioning from class to class is where a lot of the troubles and the violence start. So that whole lunch thing, to me, she kind of went toe to toe with me, just kept going back and like, oh, your district needs to get with the sign of times. And I'm like, I just don't see that happening. So that was one issue. And then this Dr. King thing with this younger generation and these flyers is totally so disrespectful. And I don't even know what owner would allow someone to say, all right, but I know everybody that they're about their money and they don't care. But to me, if I got an establishment, my business would not be on this flyer for you to have a Martin Luther King weekend, Freedom to Twerk party. Then Anwar has sent me something. I had a dream, a big booty jam.
Yo, I pulled 3 of those off of Twitter, man.
Yeah. And
I guess values have changed, man. I guess it's okay to put our historic icons, on flyers, holding guns and flashing cash, and I don't know, man.
No, it's not okay. That's just disrespectful.
Yeah.
But if you look at our culture, that's what it's predicated on, especially the Black Native American culture. So much of what we do and so much of what we consume is based on that. I mean, it's like you said, Anwar, the values have changed. So no longer is it about, being respectful to authority, listening to what people who know more than you, whether they're 8 years older than you, 20 years older than you, or your parents or your elders or your teachers. A lot of the youth just don't seem to care. Now, I'm on record, and I'll stay on record and saying this. They are to be blamed and held responsible for their decision making. But a lot of the decision making is based on not having enough information to make a cogent decision. And what I mean by that is this. You look at the music that we grew up on. Now, I come from a different walk of life, so I grew up, listening to some jazz. You can throw some ragtime in there, definitely some R&B. Hip hop didn't come along till I was, really in my early teens. But by then, my cultural foundation was set in terms of what I knew was wrong and what I thought I might be able to stretch the boundaries with. Nowadays, the youth has no boundaries, so they're always expanding what they think is right or wrong. And these flyers, I had to actually take a second look at them, and when I saw how they were photoshopped, I said, this is crazy. And this is why I tune out so much of pop culture, because it pollutes the mind. And to me, the mind, it was like the United Negro College Fund slogan was, a mind is a terrible thing to waste. And when we see so much nonsense being planted in these kids' minds, that stuff takes root. And it's not until they get to be in their late teens, starting to graduate high school, that we see how this stuff starts to manifest itself.
Hey, Herb, but isn't this also kind of a kind of look at what's happening to our community in that, our parents, because I'm assuming everyone here is a Gen Xer, our parents were actually in the civil rights era, and a lot of that history was kind of passed on in the family. And then if you went to a church, you had your Black History program, and it just seems like we've gotten away from. You have generations that are further out from that, but we've also, family structure, we've gotten away from that.
Family structure is huge, and David and I have often said that the one thing that's missing, and it's not just in Black Native families, it's just missing throughout at least most of American cultures. I know if you go to Hispanic cultures, they still have family gatherings on a weekly basis. It's a Sunday dinner. And
you know what? My family down south still have Sunday dinners together and family reunions. Here up north, they don't. So, it's still practiced in our generation. It's the kids, basically it's kids raising kids. So how can a kid raise a kid? They can't really teach them nothing if they wasn't taught nothing themselves. Now, our parents, like you said, was there. My parents, my grandparents was.
They had
the church. We believed in God, and we had these issues. You can probably take a survey, and majority of the kids in school today ain't gonna say they pray or know anything about prayer or going to church or going to, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Well, I don't necessarily know. Go ahead, Dave.
Yeah, they have gatherings and sessions right now. They just call it turn up or something. We about to get turned up,
Right.
and that's their focus because, like you said,
It's
Sandra,
usually the kids
it's-
and the mother, the kids and the parents together turn it up.
and that's the
I
thing.
turn up with my mother.
No, I didn't turn up on my mother either. And going back, I know church ain't popular with everybody, but I just remember that a part of my childhood was we had that Black History program, you know, at church every year. And so at some point it became ingrained that, okay, Dr. Martin Luther King, you know, he did a lot for our people, you know, and he became he's a sacred person. So I don't know if that's being imparted today for the younger people.
No, and I think that's why there's a push to get African American studies instituted into some state curriculums. And to the larger point, it's not just us, but it's everybody. I mean, and we've done a show on this before, David, with the use of the term nigga. You're starting to see everybody use the term where when we were kids, we rarely used it, let alone somebody that was of another culture. That was fighting. You said, what the hell? Oh, no, we can't have that. And now as you come to the point, I mean, even, and a lot of people say this Genesis has his basis in rap, and I won't debate that one way or the other, because music plays an integral role in a lot of our culture, because that's what we gravitate towards. We're musical people by nature, and we export that, you know, more so than anything else we do. We don't export we will export food. Our clothing styles are probably second, but music is first. I know at the turn of the millennium, hip hop was the number one musical genre in the world. Not just the United States, but the world. Now think about that. We're talking about, I think the world is like 6-7 billion people. How do you have a musical genre that was started because the lack of options become the most recognizable, most popular musical genre in the world? And the caveat is we don't even control it. It's controlled by outside influences. So whatever they want produced, it gets produced above the objections of the artist. So now that you no longer as an artist control what you put out, a label can make you appear to be anything. And that's ultimately a loop. Go ahead.
Yeah, aren't most of the CEOs like Leor Cohen, are most of them Jewish?
Yes. Yes, they are.
Yeah.
You know, just like we're starting, and I know this because I work in retail, and I start to see the fashion and how it's actually trending. My suit size is a 42XL. I went into a store to try on a suit coat, and I picked up my size, didn't fit. And I'm saying, when in the hell did this happen? And all of a sudden, because I really shop for clothing, I usually shop at stores that cater more to African American traditional styles, the flamboyant colors, the pastels, the 5 and 7 button. That's more what I tend to wear. And throwing some double-breasted suits, I still wear those. I'm actually looking for some of the old style gangster double-breasted suits, but that's a different topic for another time. But all of that is being controlled by people outside of our culture. Think about it. We have very few Black clothing designers. I know, and I'm going to switch to sports for a moment. The Indiana Pacers uniforms years ago was designed by Florence Griffith Joyner. A lot of people who aren't in the track and field probably don't I think it was Florence. Yes, Florence Junior from Georgia.
Oh, wow.
We don't have any black clothing designers. We don't have black-owned clothing labels, with the exception of Fubu. So think about whose clothing you're wearing. Think about who's designing that. This is why we see, the skinny jeans, and I saw this, I couldn't believe this. It was a laced short set for men. All the pastel colors. I said, no. I said, just no. Just no. So much of what we consume is being indoctrinated into us, and we don't even stop to ask and question why.
Mm-hmm.
It astounds me, like, when we were kids, the effeminate boy was always picked on. Why? Because he didn't fit the cultural norm. Now, this is back before being gay or any semblance of that was really even thought about in the culture. And you saw it, but you really didn't pay any attention to it. He's got cigarette and Seiko. He does. So you didn't know whether somebody was gay or he was just raised effeminate. And you have some soft-natured guys out there that, hey, they're not gay. That's just the way they are. They're not over-aggressive. They're not, they're not boisterous. They don't conduct themselves in the masculine manner that most people are accustomed to seeing. And I think when that happens in any society, those boys tend to become lost, and they tend to be the easier people that are picked out and they are abused. And this comes back to having that community and having that masculine principle in them, because the masculine principle will pull them aside and they'll get to the root cause of what it is. And it's not necessarily about trying to make him a man. It's about understanding male and female principles. And I always tell people this. There's one thing that men and women are designed to do. I don't care what happens on this planet. Men are designed to get women pregnant. Women are designed to birth children. Anything else between two individuals, you can decide what you want to do. So if you want to have a woman that goes out and works and she wants to be a breadwinner, and you have a man that stays home and he wants to be the homemaker, if that works for you, go ahead and knock yourself out. I'm not going to stand in your way. But we do have a lot of people in society saying that that's not how things should be. Traditionally speaking, they would be correct.
Well, let me say this. Well, actually, that boy or young man that's gay, actually, he's probably one of the popular ones in the school in this day and age. It's I don't think it's like that anymore as far as with these kids. Obviously, the girls love them, and even some of the guys, the boys are, hanging out because they know he knows all the inside information regarding the girls. So they don't get picked on like that as much. They might ask, like, "Are you gay?" or whatever the case is. And nowadays they're open, and this is at the middle school level, and they're
because
open.
It's a societal acceptance. Society accepts it now.
Yeah.
It's become normalized, correct?
So that kid is no longer getting bullied or frowned upon anymore like that. He's the one walking around with a world of confidence.
Right. And because everybody want to be their friend.
Well, everybody wants to be on the good side of a popular person, whether it's a male or a female. Just like David said, they're the gatekeepers of the information.
Yeah, but you know what? I don't even think it's the popular person. I think it's just the standard or a norm. Everybody accepts the fact that somebody is gay. It's not, it's not frowned upon like it used to be.
Well, no, yeah, and that's what I mean by the new normal. and when I say that, I mean that to say that you have. Let's look at it like this. Let's take any issue that has been prevalent in the Black Native community or our concerns. Everything that has a fight has co-opted that struggle to be with theirs. So now, when a minority used to be just specifically Black people, it's become women. Now it's become transgender or gay or anybody that fits that spectrum. So now they aren't targeted. Like there used to be no legislation of a hate crime for beating somebody that was gay. Now they have anti-gay bullying legislation. Think about this for a minute. They do not have that same type of legislation for Native Black people. Nowhere is that legislation on the books. Nowhere is it actually even being talked about in a Senate, an assembly, or any legislative body. Why?
So, hey Herb, I want to throw something in here that kind of dovetails into what you're talking about. And I want to go back to that last show you guys did where you guys were on there cooking for like 2 hours and the woman called from overseas. So someone, I don't know if it's the lady on the phone now, but someone, Herb, you were talking about politics and the woman said, are you telling me I have to go to YouTube to figure this stuff out? And to David and Herb's audience, there's a lot of stuff, there are a lot of discussions being had on YouTube right now. And there's a discussion going on about there being an attack on manhood and masculinity. And I think we have to take a look at what's going on around us and what kinds of things are being engineered and socially engineered into us and into society. And there have been things that have been slowly engineered into what we consider normal. So some of this stuff, it kind of isn't a surprise, but it's been gradually happening. Some of the people we've elected into office, some of the people we support unconditionally. I mean, I don't want to, attack Obama, but this is something that's being talked about. Was that he very much supported a lot of this stuff. So I just wanted to throw that in there, and just tell the audience who's ever listening to this, there's a lot of valuable information and a lot of discussions, just like the ones Herb and Dave were having on YouTube now, that people are kind of sleeping on.
Yeah, you got a big blog discussion going on a regular basis that people probably should tune in and check out when you're talking about finances and STEM, like the science field, especially when you have younger children, that they need to know that those fields, it's a call out for Black boys and Black girls to take careers in that aspect. But a lot of times, if you
so everyone, a quick plug. I'm a scientist, and I have my own YouTube channel called Big Discussions 76. I talk about science and money. This is Dr. Anwar Dunbar.
Oh, hi, Doctor.
Hi, who's this?
It's Sandra. The voices just sounded alike. I just want to know who's speaking. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Okay, no, I'm a Western New Yorker, just like Dave and Herbert. I live in DC, but Dave has come on my channel a couple times. We collaborated. So, but I'm a content creator myself, and I listen to David and Herb, and we all talk, and so we're just creating some synergy here.
Yeah,
okay.
So
I'm sorry for interrupting.
But my point is, I think that a lot of people don't appreciate appreciate the value that's on YouTube. I think a lot of people think it might be a gimmick. It might be just some form of, silly entertainment, but you can pretty much find any kind of discussion that you want on there, whether it's money, whether it's dating and mating, whether it's fitness, whatever you want to find on there, whether it's the different discussions that are being had about this election year. There are things you're not gonna see on CNN and MSNBC. Right. And I think that's why a lot of people were caught off guard with what happened in the 2016 election, because there were discussions that weren't being had on MSNBC and CNN. My mother only watches MSNBC, so she's oblivious to a lot of stuff. But a lot of people only listen to that. Go ahead.
I'm just saying I am too oblivious to a lot of stuff because that's all I've watched is MSNBC.
Yeah, but Herb mentioned Dr. Claude Anderson. I'm writing a blog post on I have a blog site. I'm writing something about Dr. Claude Anderson right now. Dr. Claude Anderson has been around for 30 years. For 30 years. And the only reason I found out about the only reason I found out about him was because of Dr. Boyce Watkins. So I'm saying that to say that there are messages and there are things that are being kept from us that we have access to now. So if you're only looking in certain places, you're going to miss a lot of things.
And I think for a lot of times, older Black people may have the difficulty in that because they see their children on YouTube. So they only think about the stuff that they look at and not think about, like, yeah, you can put anything in a search thing and a bunch of different stuff will pop up. But they only think of kids going on YouTube. So I think that kind of holds them back from going on because they think it's, relative to only with information for kids. But that's just my take.
Well, David, and there's also a technological divide. Our baby boomer parents, they're less likely to understand how all these things work. So they're very much limited by that.
Yeah, especially when you have to go on something and then they ask for a username, password, and set up an account. And most people are like, all right, there's just too many accounts for me to set up, and they'll click right back off. Yeah,
when I was home for Christmas, I set up my mother's YouTube so she could watch it. I don't know what she's watching, but she wants to watch MSNBC. But I told her there's a whole lot of other stuff here you could look at, if you want to. So.
And Anwar, to your point, I try and push a lot of people on YouTube. And I know when BGS took down his channel, that was huge for you and I because he was a source of so much relevant information. Now, there's a lot of people that post content to YouTube that is just for entertainment. BGS was not for entertainment. He was for teaching. And I mean, the amount and the wealth of information that will come through his channel just completely revolutionized the way that I look at a lot of things. And one of his core statements that I always say is, men think the world, women feel the world. And that goes to the core of why our communities are in this situation that they are. Not only do I talk about BGS, and he's come back in a limited capacity, but people, I can't stress this enough, go to his community wall, and there's a lot of people that he promotes. For those people that he promotes, I implore you to go just sit down and just listen. You don't have to try and learn anything. Just listen, because what Anwar was talking about as far as his connection in STEM, there's a black brain trust. They talk about global politics, global economy, and a lot of things. And a lot of people don't seem to understand how that impacts us. And I'll take that and I'll put it on the table and I'll open up and tell you how that impacts us. Right now, the Trump administration is in the final stages of wrapping up trade agreements with China. And for people that really don't understand what that means, let me put it to you in simple terms. That means the flat screen TV that you are able to go out and get for $350, with the embargo, it was going to cost you about $50 more. Oil imports. If they rise, guess what else rises? A gallon of gas. Your heating pump.
You said that was Obama. I want to hear what you said. I'm sorry.
The Trump administration. The Trump administration. Yeah.
Huh?
The Trump administration, just like with the drone attacks, just like with the protests going on in Iran. A lot of people think that's over there and then that doesn't matter. It does.
Do you know they had a protest today in America?
I generally don't pay attention to protests in America, and you want me to tell you why? Because they're lip service.
They formed and this is what happened. It ain't no racist statement or anything. It was a bunch of white people got together on Martin Luther King's birthday with their guns and stuff and protested the gun laws that they had in Congress to work on today. And guess what? They didn't pass them.
You said they didn't do what to any of them?
Didn't pass them. They didn't pass any of them gun laws that they've been talking about and promising us because those people formed protest the scary looking I don't know what to call them without calling them something that may sound racist, but the guys that's against the guns, the prejudiced white people.
I don't know if you're speaking about the NRA.
Huh?
I don't know if you're speaking about the NRA, which is National Rifle Association.
Yeah, that's what it was. That's who formed the protest today.
Well, the NRA doesn't.
Okay, I think this again is an example where we have to be careful of the images that are being filtered out to us. And the reason I say this is because I went to my very first shooting event in June. My first time ever handling a weapon, my first time ever shooting a weapon. It was Juneteenth weekend, and it was hosted by a black gun club. And these people, this was a black gun club out in Maryland, and they had the vests. They could tell you everything about the ammunition. They could tell you everything about, safety and rifles and any kind of weapon you could think of. So I think that's the only thing that stuck out in my mind, what you just said about, because you kind of painted it as all white people, and the NRA is not all white people. I just want to say that.
Well, the protest that I'm talking about was all white people today.
That's what he's talking about.
I almost want to say, did you see that on TV?
Of course, MSNBC.
Okay, so how do you know there weren't any black people there? They will selectively show you what they want you to see.
There, but they highlighted the most horrific, scary looking ones that would intimidate somebody. That's what they did.
Okay, I just think we have to be careful of the messaging that we're seeing. It's not always 100% accurate. And this is what me and my mom talk about whenever I go home. You just gotta be careful about what they're showing you, because they may not be showing you the whole thing.
I have to find this image and I have to post it on the webpage. But it's akin to what Dr. Anwar is saying. If I take an image and I feed it to you so that the image is inverted, then you are only going to see what I want you to see. And this is the fight that major media news networks are having. I always tell people, If your primary source of information is from CNN or MSNBC, go watch Fox News. And people say, why? Why would I want to watch that racist this and that? For that simple reason, you're going to get somebody else's perspective because we don't have our own perspective on the news unless you don't watch it. I watch the BBC. Why? Because the BBC is reporting on the ground from locations. The BBC does not give a damn about Republicans or Democrats. It doesn't exist to them. So there, and Al Jazeera is another one. Go watch them. They're on YouTube. We have all this access to all this information, and we don't use it. And we as Black Americans are woefully guilty that we have been Democratic puppets since the time that our ancestors have been released from bondage. And they count on our ignorance. They count on us being willful sheep, being sheared to provide clothing for them. And we do it. Now you're starting to see an undercurrent of Black men who are saying, okay, you know what? We're not doing this anymore. And there's some movements that have grown from that. And I won't mention those movements on here. I'll probably talk about them at a later date. But this has its genesis in dating. So I'm going to transition from that and mention a couple people that I want y'all to check out. And I mentioned Dr. Claude Anderson. I mentioned BGS. There's the Black Brain Trust. I'm trying to think of who else I listen to regularly that doesn't deal with dating, because I always listen to Alan Roger Curry. To me, Alan he's a revolutionary in terms of the way that he looks at female nature. And he's taken it and he's kind of disassembled it and he's giving it to you in pieces so you as a man can understand what it is that you're dealing with when you're in the realm of dating. But Claude Anderson, BGS, the Black Brain Trust, and even Obsidian Mumia Ali and Dr. Tia San Johnson. If you don't have any of those people in your regular, and a lot of those people, I know Tia San Johnson is on Facebook because he's on my first list. I don't know if Dr. Claude Anderson has a Facebook page, but he's definitely on YouTube. And his videos are only about 10 minutes. And a lot of you people probably drive to work, you're listening to radio, turn the radio off, sync up your smartphone to your radio, and listen to it while you're driving. It's idle time anyway. You might as well feed yourself with some information that's going to help you grow, especially Dr. Claude Anderson. I always mention his book, Powernomics. Go get it.
Yeah.
Read it.
So Herb, I gotta pull her in. You know, so on this theme of selective imaging, Oprah's getting cooked right now because for whatever reason, Oprah and this whole Me Too thing, she's only wanted to single out the Black men. She hasn't really, you know, she for some reason she's devoted all of her attention to the Black men, but not the white men. And she's getting cooked right now for that.
Yeah, she pulled out of the documentary for I can't remember who. Yes,
Russell.
And Oprah's issues, for lack of a better term, I would say there's problems and issues. Issues for Oprah stem from her childhood and her being abused. So I understand her desire to seek retribution. So I don't necessarily hold that against her, but I do hold her accountable for how she's using that in her platform to damage the integrity in the men that have done nothing to her. Now, if you want to go ruin somebody's career or life or financial well-being that's done something to you, yeah, I'm going to stand back and let you have at them because I'm like, you be what you show. But these are people who have done nothing to her, so we don't hear about the Kevin Spaceys of the world, the Epstein. I can't remember the other gentleman's name, who are
what's his name?
There's so many of
Harvey.
them.
Harvey Weinstein, Kevin Spacey. There's another gentleman who was Roman Polanski. We don't hear about them. So if you were to ask the average person about those, they would not know. And this is why it's important that you go to several media outlets and even YouTube. I keep mentioning it because it's there for a reason. And all these people that people say don't matter is just YouTube. They matter. One, because they vote. Two, because they have platforms that have tens of thousands of people on them. And they're influencers. Much like the media network that you watch on Fox, CNN, or MSNBC, they are influencers. So they're planting things in your mind. And we've already established that you can plant something in your mouth and in somebody's mind and watch it grow.
If I could share this too.
You're trying to share that protest?
Yeah. How can I share it to the? I can't share it while we're talking, huh?
You might play the audio. I mean,
You probably just have to wait after, click on comment, and then copy and paste the link.
Okay, so maybe I gotta copy and paste it. See, I'm one of those that don't know all of this crap either. I'm gonna copy the link, and then I'm gonna go back to the page. And I purposely didn't take it from MSNBC.
No, it doesn't have to be. What we're trying to get you to understand is this. It doesn't matter who posts or who does it. If somebody wants you, let me put it to you like this. If you ask your child what happened in school, and your child came home and gave you the same story for 2 weeks straight, you're going to go to school and you're going to want to know what the problem was without asking anybody else what happened. So all of a sudden now, what your child has been feeding you, you've taken as a truth without asking anyone else what happened. It's the same thing. It's the same concept. This is why the first thing that a police officer does when he or she gets to a scene is they start asking questions. They don't start arresting people because they don't want to arrest the wrong person for an incorrect reason. This is why it's important that you gather information from a variety of sources. And I always tell people, you want to know who's lying, who's telling the truth? Ask everybody the same question. But they're saying that a lie is the truth. Now, I want you to engage the critical thinking and find out where the BS lies. And the only way you can do that is by gathering more information, reading more, thinking more, and having these conversations with your peers. And work may not be the ideal place, but this is why it's important that you get out. And I always tell people, get out. Stop living a closet life. It makes you grow old. Get out and go speak to people you don't normally speak to. Why? Because you're going to learn things that you otherwise wouldn't learn. Just like everyone was talking about the Black Gun Club. I know a Black Gun Club. I'm going to get
one too.
Have you ever shot?
Yeah.
Well, most people.
Have you ever shot a firearm?
People don't take risks like that to speak to different people because it's about trust and other kind of hidden stuff from the past, or just period. Just people have that notion of I don't speak to people unless they speak to me. And that's a lot of people's mindset.
There's another thing too. What about the fact that everybody have a right of their own opinion and how they interpret stuff? Now, because if I interpret something a certain type of way, you may interpret it different. So how we see things, we really can't base our whole thought of this is what's right and this is what's happening on what we feel and think,
Well, what trumps all that?
Huh?
What trumps how a person feels?
What?
About perceptions.
What will you said you everybody has an opinion. Everybody has
right.
a way that they feel about things.
Right.
What will take thoughts and feelings and put them in the proper perspective? Everybody's entitled to an opinion. It's something I heard before, and I kind of co-opted it as my own. If people had to pay for an opinion, they wouldn't have one. So in the absence of having an opinion, what takes its place?
Well, there got to be some type of belief system you have in
No.
what you're looking at.
No,
Like, okay,
not a belief system.
if I can talk about God, I'm not going to believe in God.
No, it has nothing to do with a belief system.
What do you have to do with?
Facts.
Okay, but the way I see facts and the way you see facts, sound just like y'all said, that gun rally today, I'm sure it was some black people there, but they was outnumbered by the hundreds of thousands, okay?
Let me simplify it for you. If you have two apples and I put two, and I have two apples, we put those apples together, how many do we have?
We got 4.
There's no disputing that. There's no opinion about that. Correct?
All right, that's my, yeah, how many you see?
No. It's not about what I see, what I think, or what I feel. It's about what's actually
what's your opinion
there.
about it? How many apples we got?
There is no opinion.
That's why they say there's no such thing as reality. There's only your perception. People perceive and believe, or based on cultural upbringing, people interpret stuff differently. That doesn't make it right or wrong. Some of it is facts.
Right.
The facts are right there. But some people, you can't convince them otherwise.
Right.
Because listen to this. I believe Trump is going to be impeached. Well, he's already been impeached in the
Trump
in the
will be
House.
back in here 4 more years.
I believe he's going to be impeached in the Senate, but a lot of people don't.
You can get that ideal up. I'm telling you now, you can get that ideal up. You think the Republicans are going to roll on a Republican president? For the Democrats, you're biting up the wrong tree. There's a reason.
All Republican presidents and all presidents have served the second term, right? That's one of the.
No.
That's one of the reasons why.
That's not true. No, that's not true.
Who did?
Bush. Bush was a one-term president. Carter was a one-term president. Nixon resigned. More often than not, most presidents are reelected because they don't want to disrupt it. They don't want to disrupt his policies, whether they're Democrats or Republicans.
So I want to chime in here. So in terms of perception, so since we're talking about the president, I walked into my office the day after that election, and there are people crying. And the problem, my issue is, I think we should just be given objective facts in their entirety. Okay, so there was evidence before that election that he was going to win. There was evidence.
Sure was.
There was evidence before the election that there was a Hillary backlash in the Black community. It wasn't talked about on MSNBC and CNN. There was evidence that there was an anti-Obama backlash in the Black community during that election, but people weren't talking about that in a grand scale. So the people who weren't listening to those discussions were blown away or blown over when Trump won. There were people who were insulted by Hillary pulling out hot sauce on the Breakfast Club. There were people who were insulted by seeing Roland Martin do the wobble with Hillary. Okay, but people weren't focused on that. They just, Black people are going to vote for her, and she's going to win the election in a landslide. Okay, so there's a problem when things aren't covered in their entirety.
Well, Hillary had that election won.
No, she didn't. She didn't. If she did, she would have won.
Had it won. Hillary had that election won.
Okay. Hold on, Anwar. Let's take that premise, Sandra. Let's take that premise, and let's say she had that election won. What caused her to lose?
What's his name? The one that came out with that stuff that Trump paid him to come the one that was supposed to be messing with that. I don't even know their names, but I know that they got his computer, and he gonna say he found more emails evident that she had lost, those emails that was lost, the 30,000 emails that was lost. That's what made her lose.
No, that's an ongoing issue before she declared her candidacy. It had nothing to do with her losing. If you want to look at what had something to do with her losing, you can look at the way they were trying to undermine Bernie Sanders, and they were just dismissing him as an also ran.
There you go. That's another thing.
This is why we tell you, stop watching just one source of information. Even if she didn't have the email server, there were a lot of black men who just weren't going to support her because of the things she had said about black men being criminals, being thugs.
Okay, so what Trump do? Trump done had our people living in squalor. I'm talking about places that's not meant for habitat. In those apartment buildings he had in New York City. So we gonna support him for that? He done called a person with mental health. Okay, let me stop.
No, go ahead. Speak your mind. Go ahead.
No.
What I would say to that is that a lack of support for Hillary is not necessarily support for Trump.
Right, that's true too.
So,
but I don't understand why they letting Trump do what he do, and all of us, even us as a colored person, gonna be all right with the stuff he do. He lies, he cheats, he's a snake in the grass. We're going to go to war for if he get in another term, who will help us in war?
Isn't that the American way? Isn't that the American way?
So
the American way to what? Lie, cheat.
Yeah.
I'm talking about boldface. I mean, we could check sign everything that he done lied about. In the last
okay, so let me ask you this question. What American president has not deceived the American populace?
Okay, all of them have. But not to the extent that Trump has.
But how do you know?
Okay, but listen, they said he tried to take food stamps for 700 and some thousand people.
And do you know why that is?
That could be my child, that could be your child, that could be your mom, or anybody depending on those food stamps.
Do you know why that is?
Why?
Because America is sinking in debt. The world is sinking in debt. This is why we tell you. Hold on. The American, the U.S. budget deficit has reached an unprecedented level. That money has to be.
Because every time they take it out of our checks to feed all of these people. We pay the taxes for them to feed them, to give them food.
Yo, stop taking that out my damn check.
Not even out of it's coming out of American public pocket, but it's not coming from no taxes or nothing. It is taxes, but we doing it. We've been doing it all of this time. I know people that's been on social services, not that I don't think that they can work, but I know people that been on social services forever.
And that's a problem. That's a problem.
Has never had to pay them back, never had to do anything. I remember in I think it was 95 for 6 months, I used social services. Do you know in 2006 they came and garnished my wages and got back the whole $1,800 that they gave me over 6 months? So some people they do right by that. Some people I temporarily used it. You know what I'm saying?
Let me
So
understand.
that's who they go after. They're lifers. Okay,
I'll put it to you like this. These tests that you see, they're only the beginning. This is why I specifically mentioned about BGS. He speaks about this particular topic. He speaks about it in depth, and he speaks about it on a historical level. See, we're looking at this in a snapshot, and nothing in U.S. government happens in a vacuum. You got to realize, the system itself is less than 100 years old. And one of the reasons the system was instituted is because of the Great Depression. They didn't want hundreds of thousands of people, particularly Caucasian women and children, starving to death. So the people who take advantage of the system, not use the system, take advantage of the system, really are few and far between. Now, if you're talking about the generations of people who stay on the system, that's a problem, but that's a cultural problem. It's not a U.S. created problem. Dave and I did a show on how real is white supremacy. And one of the things that we talked about was the advent of having children without planning for them. Most of the things that the average individual does leads to them either being financially stable or financially unstable. I don't care what it is. You spend too much money because you're not earning enough, that's causing you to be financially unstable. You're living outside your means, doing things that you don't need to be doing, smoking cigarettes, all of those things, no matter how small they are, lead to you being financially unstable. Having kids out of wedlock is the number one reason why kids are impoverished. I'm telling you, people, I don't make these things up. They're tried and proven. There have been Pew studies upon Pew studies upon Pew studies, and they all come back to the same thing. The largest demographics of people living in poverty are women and children. The largest homeless population in America is Black men. Look at the tea leaves, people, and look at what they're telling you. The destruction of the family unit, regardless of culture or ethnicity, is the number one reason why we as a people find ourselves in the situations that we do.
Yeah, and I keep saying, before we attack any of those issues, we have to figure out how to bring that unit back together. I mean, we spend too much time worrying about stuff that isn't going to help us grow or our communities grow. So that's why, excuse my language, that's why we fucked as people. Bottom line. Keep it short and sweet. Now, that's not all. There's some people who understand, who get it, and they know how to mingle and know how to connect with the right resources or read and get different knowledge. But for the most part, people, we just doing stuff that's trending or getting stuff from one source. There's a reason why when you're in college, they say, I need 3 or 4 sources or 5 sources so that you can get different perspectives and see different, see different opinions on stuff instead of just getting it from one article or one journal or something like that, one book. They want you to see 4 or 5 different sources. So that would be the reason, and that's to help you understand that in life, that you just can't base it on one perspective.
I gotta get ready to roll, young man.
Say that again?
I have to get ready to go. Work is calling.
Oh yeah. We about to close it out. Anyway, y'all know the drill. I mean, next week we'll pick it back up. I want to thank Sandra, Dr. Anwar for coming in tonight. Of course, Herb, and we'll pick it up. I really like the open conversations because it gives you an opportunity to kind of talk about different topics and not focus on just one, because we have a lot of things that we have to attack. And I think
Yeah.
this was positive when
Well,
you.
thanks for having me, guys. You guys got something going here.
I appreciate you, and you welcome to call in anytime. You know the deal.
All right.
I appreciate you, brother.
Take care.
All right, you too. So with that said, folks, I'm gonna get ready to sign off. Stay tuned for watch parties. Stay tuned for the watch parties during the week. Feel free, if you didn't get a chance to chime in or call in, you can always keep the conversation going by just making a comment. So I hope everybody enjoyed their MLK Day. Many people were off of work. Some people had to work because that's the nature of your job. But I just hope that you take time to reflect on these things. And reflection may not always be about having conversations with other people. It may just be your own time that you think like, man, the things that Dr. King went through, the message he was trying to deliver, what can you do to make this world a better place? What could you do to make your family, put them in a better position? Your children, your neighborhood, all these things kind of go hand in hand, but you have to have some self-reflection to think about that. And sometimes that's just that alone time to sit back and think. But again, these situations, these conversations build off of one another. So with that said, I'm out. Everybody enjoy the rest of their week, and I'll talk to you soon. And stay tuned for the next segment of No Friday Foolishness, relationship statement number 4. All right, thanks everybody. I'm out. Peace.